It's the tape is running.
You are now live.
All right, thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of December 10th, 2020, Norwalk Public Library Board of Directors. President of Directors are Patsy, Janie, Moyna, Mary, Ralph, and Alex, and Acting Director Sherelle Harris, and Technology Director Lori Iflin. So I'd like to suggest that we go off the agenda as a accommodation to Lori's schedule and ask her to make a presentation of the technology plan for the library, and we'll follow that with discussion and action. So Lori, thank you very much for rearranging your Thursday night schedule to come, and we look forward to your
Anytime.
presentation. Please proceed.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. First of all, I am Lori Iflin, and I do want to thank you for giving me a little bit of your time to present my draft of the technology plan for the Norwalk Public Library. I think first off, it's important to note that I work very closely with the town technology department for both technical and financial support. And I've made note of the budget divisions on Appendix 1 of the plan. So I'm going to share my screen to kind of give you a little overview on the thought process of my plan, as well as the plan itself. So one moment, please. Okay. So very quickly, I'd like to take you through my thought process. The first thing that I did was I developed a mission statement. And what I hope to do is achieve this mission each and every year, and each and every year to reassess what this mission means to me and to our patrons as well. There we go. When I decided to revamp the whole planning processes, I did a lot of research on best practices. And it seemed that the best advice was to do a 5-stage plan. And the first part of that plan was to do a resource assessment in 2 stages. The first would be, what do we have in place now and how well is that working? So the first task requires that I do a complete inventory of all the software, the hardware, and any other technologies that we're using in the library. If you look at the end of the plan in Appendix 2 and 3, you can see I have completed that. And in the body of the plan, you will find descriptions of all the other technologies we're using, including Studio One equipment, fax machines, copiers, and more. And I'm going to go through all of that as well. So next, I wanted to define some of my goals that I wanted to accomplish with this. I divided it up into 3 parts. The first is the infrastructure. And this took care of all of the behind the scenes hardware and software. Next is the public access and services. And this includes everything that we use to bring our services to the public. And finally is the staff access and services. And this is all the equipment that we use to keep our staff up to date to best serve our public. So when we look at, if you want to follow along, we're on page 1 of the plan. I started with my goals, and these goals are used to develop my objectives. They are interconnected. So our infrastructure goals are centered on strengthening our back end. This includes things like our catalog and patron databases, our collection budgets, and the use of technology for all of our library services. And then I looked at the public access and services. And this is where I included things like our hardwired network of desktops, our Wi-Fi network for the free and public access, as well as what kind of operating systems we're offering the public. You know, Windows, it used to be all Windows, and now people are wanting to look more into Macs and Chromebooks and stuff. And finally, we have the staff access and services. And this goal really focuses on developing a well-educated and a tech-savvy staff. So if we look at our objectives, in the objective section, you'll see how I want to accomplish all of these goals. First, I need to discuss the need for maintaining our integrated library system. That's the ILS. You'll hear that banded around a lot, but it's basically just our Sierra III system. It's how we do all of our purchasing, all of our circulation, all of our cataloging, really that back end of what we are. It's also, oops, there we go. We talk about the software and the hardware for public and the staff, and working with the town to keep our hardware and software up to date, and looking at some new technologies. And perhaps the most important part about it is watching what the trends in library science and services are. And once I've done all of these goals and objectives and everything like that, I need to plan for the funding. The library has always used a four-pronged approach in the past, and that I have not changed. So first is to look at the library operating and the library capital budgets. And what I do is I meet with the department heads as well as the director and talk about some of their goals and what they want to see and some of the roadblocks that they've seen in the back, and see what we can do to make those things better. Then in October, I meet with the director and we start developing budget for the next fiscal year. Also in October, the director and I meet directly with the town technology committee, and we start talking about how they can help us and how we need to access their operating and capital budgets. Finally, after all of that wonderful work, we get to the fun part where we get to implement this plan to do all of this great technology. So this is about contacting the vendors and re-examining their bids, putting together some timelines and managing the project. And when it's all in place, talk about training the staff to use all of these technologies. So unfortunately, as we know, the best laid plans often go awry, and COVID hit. So when I wrote this plan, I had some really exciting projects coming down the line. We wanted to do that ILS, our Sierra. We wanted to move it to the cloud. We wanted to put in some laptop vending machines, both here and at Sono. We wanted to integrate easy wireless printing as well as pay by credit card for printing. And now I'm at that point where I need to kind of reassess, are we going to move forward straight as the plan is? Do we need to start looking at how COVID is going to change right now for this fiscal year and maybe next? And what are we going to do after COVID? So let's look at what we have right now. This is kind of the crux of the plan. Does anyone have any questions on how I kind of came up with this, where my thought process is? Okay, and I'm happy to, we can talk about it afterwards too. You know, it's definitely a living document that is always open to suggestions, definitely. So the computer right now, the library right now has 173 computers, 8 OPACs, which are online public access catalogs. And you know those when you come into the library and want to look up a book or anything, you go to those computers. We have 59 workstations for the staff, 67 public workstations, 29 public laptops, and approximately 10 staff laptop. The majority of the library right now, the staff, is still on operating Windows operating system 7, which is no longer being supported as updated, as you know. So licenses for those Windows to upgrade to Windows 10 is all done and financed by the town. And right now we're in the queue to have it completed by the end of this fiscal year. We do have somebody coming over, getting our most important people up to date, and we are going to finish the whole system hopefully by the end of the fiscal year. As of right now, all the staff and public computers have been updated to the newest Office 2013. And from what I hear from town, we hope to go to the cloud-based version, that Office 365 soon, which I believe is the way we should go. We should be doing everything cloud. The staff and public has access to over 49 printers. 35 of those printers are under contract with the city. They did a citywide contract. This is a large oversubscription for the library. In order to correct this, we renegotiate that with Sharon Connors over at town, and we hope to do that as soon as possible to bring down that budget. We just don't need the printers. We're doing a lot more of collaborative work, and things can stay online. We don't need the paper that we once did. Good, okay. Alex, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask, is this COVID related or just the regular operations of the library?
This is regular operations of the library that we are still using pretty much every day. So the patrons can send us things to print or to fax, or, you know, anything. They are just using it.
No, I'm not saying. I mean, do you have too many printers because of COVID, or do you have too many printers because the regular day-to-day experience of the library shows you
It's
don't need that many printers?
It's changing, yes. So this is, we've had this many printers for close to 3 years. When the city changed contracts, we kind of did a all replace, one for one, and we didn't really reevaluate what we were using and looking at our use, and we can do that properly now. We have the numbers to really do that, and anecdotally, we just don't need them. Before COVID, we didn't need them, and we don't need them now.
Okay, thank you.
How many do we need?
I think we can cut it down. Let's see, we have, I said 49, 35 under contract. I think we can take up to 15 away. And we can consolidate some of, we have what I call the medium-sized printers, that we could take 4 or 5 of those away and get one large format printer that does scanning, faxing, that does everything. And the price per copy is a fraction of the cost. So we can do a lot more consolidating, and we don't need to have printers in every room. People can walk, you know, to the next room.
How does that break down between the two sites, between Norwalk and Sono?
The main branch can get rid of about 12 with the additional of 1 large format. And I believe Sono can get rid of about 2 and have an additional large format.
So Sono uses more of the printers than Belden.
No, Belden Avenue has a lot more, so we can afford to give a lot more. Whereas Sono has fewer, so can't give up as many.
But I'm talking about the volume of use rather than. the
Oh,
printers.
Belden Avenue has a much greater volume of use, both patron and staff wise. Would you like me to get, I can get numbers for you exactly. I get monthly bills of what we print out each month. If you'd like kind of a ballpark figure on the 3 different ones, I can gather that.
I was just looking for, you know, a baseline kind of.
Sure. Let me get you those numbers actually, because I like numbers too. It makes a little bit more sense. So why don't I send the board all of our, and I'll do kind of like a 6-month trend so you can see where more printing is. And maybe what I'll do is I can go back about 1.5 years so you can see pre-COVID and post-COVID, because the last 6 months aren't as telling as we would like. So let me write that down.
We're going to get Pat
Would you
to
like
quiz
it
on them.
split Sono and main branch, or would you like it system-wide?
I'd like to see it split.
Good. For each. Very good. I can.
Yeah, I'm interested as well, because I'm one of those people that's a little skeptical about getting rid of equipment.
Okay.
And especially, if they're already paid for and, they're in use and they're convenient to staff, versus staff having to go all the way to another office to use a printer
Sure.
because we thought there was too many and we got rid of it.
Sure.
So there's some concerns there.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants a little tour, I know it seems a little kooky, but if you come in and see, see what I go and, poke around a little bit, right now in our server room, I have 5 printers that are sitting there because they were of no use. So we just are storing them because we have nowhere else to put them. And we have a couple places where there's 2 in an office where we don't really need to. But Mary, I'd love to have you in there. Please contact me anytime. I'll make myself available. And, maybe I'm always open for ideas. Maybe you can find a better place for things. Always willing to listen. Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, so this is
Moving on.
office type equipment. Right now we have 2 flatbed and 3 feeder scanners. We have 3 Xerox machines that do double-sided printing and color printing and fax services. The public has access to 4 black and white printers. Yep.
Lori, this might be a little bit too much detail it's all in your report.
You want me to move
So
on?
people can look-
Okay, so let me, Alex, before I did this, he kind of gave me some 3 general points to look at. Why don't I talk a little bit about those? Is that okay?
Great. Yep.
Okay, so the first thing he said, what's new? What's different about this plan than plans that we've had in the past? And I think the first thing that I did differently from the plan that I got when I took this job was writing that mission and vision statement. And if you look at the first page of the plan, you can see my mission and my vision. So what I hope to accomplish and how I'm going to accomplish that. I think the strength in that is that it guides me to always focus on giving those services to the patron, that will always be the goal. That, while we're trying to implement all this wonderful stuff, bring it back to the patron, and how are the patrons going to best benefit from these services? So that's one new thing. Another thing I tried to do was dividing up my goals and my objectives. So to give myself goals to accomplish this mission, and specific objectives that will do those goals. I can always refer back to this plan when I'm looking at, this new webinar on this new service. I can go back to these goals and objectives and say, how is it going to help? Is this a new goal that I want to do? Is this a trend? Is this a fad? All those kinds of things. And finally, the biggest thing that I'm trying to accomplish that COVID threw the biggest loop into is doing the resource assessment. I don't think anybody really knows everything that we have. We get invoices in, I go, okay, are we using this piece of software? Oh, yes, we use that all the time. And, we need a complete list of software and hardware, and not just how many laptops we have, but start talking about the bar scanners and the receipt printers so that I know the age of the equipment that we are using, and we can get ahead of any failures or any catastrophic disasters that will happen. So that's kind of the new stuff that I'm putting in my first year plan. The changes that I hope to enact this year is to really focus going on cloud-based services. I want to see us not only putting all of our data in the cloud, but giving our patrons cloud services so that they can access them remotely. So as you know, right now, Ancestry.com is, we have a subscription to Ancestry, and pre-COVID, you had to be in the library to use it, which is fine. It got tons of use. People were willing to come in, But I think the trend right now is that people want to access the information from wherever they are, not from where we are. We're no longer that warehouse of knowledge, that we want to be able to serve them where they are instead of them always coming in. So I want to do a lot more cloud hosting. We also can't afford to do a lot of our housing of the data ourselves. It's very expensive, and there are people out there that are professionals at this. The ILS service, the Sierra III, right now I'm working with Karen Del Vecchio over at Town to get that up into the cloud. Those servers cost us $30,000. That's a lot of money. To host it in the cloud is about $6,000. I got them down to about $6,800 a year, which is quite a good savings. And they'll be able to do the backups and, you know, the hardware replacements and all of that kind of thing. That's their game. They can definitely do that. So I think that's really the way we should be looking at. I think we also, a big change is creating our own content. This is new to us. We have certainly created content for social media. We've been in that game for quite a while, but I'm talking about, you know, recording our webinars and doing little YouTube videos, talking about how to use some of our services, all of those kinds of things, and offering them again where our patron is at their convenience. So if they can't see the author that we're having in at noon on a Thursday, they can take their time and maybe Saturday afternoon, they go to our YouTube channel and there it is. So I think developing our own content and hosting it up so it can be accessed remotely is new for us. One of the big projects that I think is very important, especially now that COVID is hit, is right now I'm also working with Town to implement wireless printing. And we've had in the past where you could go in and you bring your laptop or you bring your phone in and you can, you know, send it to an email and it will come out. This wireless printing actually can be done from anywhere. So if you're at home and you need to send some print jobs, you send it to a print server, and then when it will wait there for you for as long as you'd like. And when you're ready, you come in and you release it. So it stays private until you're ready, or you can delete it, whichever you'd like. This is taking a little bit of time because the Town's network, it has to intersect in there. So they're working very hard to get that up running, and we should have that. I got an update yesterday that they're about halfway through the process. So they've developed the network. They're just doing the testing phase now. So that's pretty exciting, as well as offering secure credit card payment through our print management system. So people don't need to carry nickels and dimes because they just don't do that anymore. They can just put it on their credit card and it's safe and secure. And we are not having to keep track of that money and going up to the circulation desk and saying, can you put a dime on my account so I can have the print job? We don't need to be putting our patrons through that. I think COVID, this is one of the big COVID improvements, is offering our services remotely. We have in the past done one-on-one tutorials, sort of online on the phone, but they just blossomed now. I'm doing them a couple times a week, as well as most of my colleagues are. We're doing the reference interview online. We are offering, in January, we're going to do a job search 5-part class that we've hired somebody to come in. And all of these classes, we're going to record and offer them remotely at their time whenever they'd like to do that. So I think doing a lot of virtual program is really the way to go. And the last thing he asked me to talk about was timing. So one of the big things that I put in that I thought was important to look at on page, I think it's page 9 in the plan. It talks about, no, I'm sorry, page 7 maybe. It talks about what to consider further. These are kind of things that I didn't include in the plan right now that I think that we as a team need to talk about. And one of them is timing. The plans that I had access to in the back were really year to year. And I think it might be smart of us to start talking maybe 2 years, even 3 years. And I'm not looking to plan 3 years out, but I'm looking to do timing 3 years out so that these are my 8 big projects that I want to have accomplished in these next 3 years. Let's talk about timelines so that we don't get sidetracked with them. I worry about going more than 3 years out because technology just changes so much. So right now, for this year, for this timing, for this fiscal year, I hope to have those couple things that I talked about in the new stuff, hopefully done this year.
A lot of information.
I
Thank
know.
you.
I know. It is a little bit, I think the big picture kind of thing to remember is that all these services that I want to offer, this is my personal philosophy. All these services that I want to offer, they're always in addition to. I never want to replace anything because we have patrons who like things the way they are. They like doing things that way. But we have a changing patron base that likes things differently. So my philosophy has always been whatever services we offer, make them in addition to. And I think we can do that with technology too. And as well as I think one of the other trends that we should be looking at is, dare I say it, the tech-free zone. We definitely have patrons who are coming into the library who need quiet. That does not go away. While that population may be getting smaller, it's not going away. So we need to start thinking about how we are going to accommodate all of these patrons, the ones that are in to create content and want to do podcasting from us, the ones that are in there to study for their medical exams, who are, doing the residency at Norwalk Hospital, all of these different ways that the patrons are using the library. I think we just need to start thinking about changing up the way that we offer the services.
Thank you, Lori. I have a few comments, but does any member of the board have any questions that they would like to address? And if so, just please say your name so the minute taker will be able to make the minutes accurate.
This is Moina. Hi, Lori. Thank you for
Hi,
that. That was
Moina.
very super informative.
Oh,
So I am curious about kind of COVID. I mean, COVID is, shifting every industry, right? And libraries, of course, are part of that. So I don't know, in the library world, like, what are you seeing more? Or, I mean, I know you did some of the virtual programming and
Yeah.
things like that, but I mean, in the short term, are you thinking less hardware all around? Are you, I mean, what?
I think yes and no. So I think the hardware has to be different. So we got awarded through the state 15 laptops that came with Wi-Fi hotspots that we had subscribed to in the past, that we found we stopped offering them because we found the same people were just borrowing them over and over again and they weren't being spread. So when we got this opportunity to do it and COVID hit, we absolutely took them up, and we can't keep them in-house. So I think we need to be offering the hardware. I think they just need to be able to take it with them, whatever they need to do. So start talking about what they need and how we can provide it to them. I also think that with COVID, we need to start thinking about equipping our staff with devices that are much more virtually friendly. We are woefully unprepared with laptops with cameras, and none of our desktops have them. And as we, the town provides us with that hardware. And as we go in and work with Karen, I did mention, we need things with cameras. You know, it's a basic. So I think the hardware isn't going to lessen. It's just a different kind of hardware.
Mm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Lori, the
And-
demographics of people that
Pat, just identify
you
yourself, Patsy.
anticipate are going to take them out of the library, what are the demographics of those users? Do you have any idea?
I do not. I can find that out for, we do keep circulation records of each of the items, so I can find out. I can do age range. I can't do specific
Are
age.
are they students or, are they people looking for jobs? Are they looking,
Sure, I can find out that for you.
I think that could be very supportive of any direction we go in, knowing who the
Sure.
users are, where the demand is.
Sure.
If it's students or if it's seniors or if it's, people seeking jobs or whatever, that could be
Sure.
very helpful.
Any other questions? Lori, I had two sort of editorial comments.
Okay.
First of all, I think the plan is very good, and I'm certainly hoping we'll approve it tonight. And I appreciate that every year we'll get another chance to look at revision, continue our involvement. So I have no substantive problems with it. I just had two kind of editorial comments. One is, I think, and this is a part I think reflects that both Moina and Patsy had some questions, as well as I, that you might want to add in terms of your vision, a separate paragraph, sentence section about responding to COVID. I think there's a lot of what you said dealing with remotely accessing materials that arise out of COVID, and whether that's now the remote access of tutorials or remote access of copying or materials. I think it deserves its own little vision.
Excellent.
I could suggest that. And second, I think you may want, again, I'm sure we're going to approve this tonight, but you may want to go through your objectives list and try to cut them down a bit. I found them sort of too numerous to be useful and
Okay.
very repetitive. So like you have one objective is get rid of obsolete software. Another objective is buy new software. Well, you could figure out a way to, I think,
Combine
merge
those.
them.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think, slightly fewer. Again, it's more of an editorial comment, not a substantive comment, but it may
Okay.
make the report more useful in terms of following up and stuff.
Okay.
I had another comment. And that was marketing these ideas of how we get it out to the public, what the changes you're making and what we
Yeah.
have available. So PR marketing should be some kind of a goal. I didn't
I
see.
agree. That was in my further things to consider. We don't, at the library, we don't have a marketing plan. We don't, we talk about, how we put out things, our newsletter and social media and the newspaper and those kinds of things, but a really structured way to reach the right audience. It's tough, but I think it really is important for all of the services, not just the technology we're offering. Yeah, Patsy, I agree. Thank you. And I'll work on with Sherelle trying to put together, even just a basic structure on, so we're doing it at the same time so people know what to expect and where to find it.
Great. Any other suggestions or responses? Well, again, I think it's very good, Laura, that you've put so much work into this. I think it's become, second to none in importance of how modern libraries operate, and certainly most important in terms of the COVID response, which I think will be with us longer than we expect. So This is a
I
big help
agree.
to us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And again, please feel free to reach out to me or just pop in. I'm at the library an awful lot. You're doing a little bit of split shifts, but I would love if anyone would like to kind of poke around a little bit and see all of this, you know, visualize. I'm a visual person. If that helps, please reach out to me. I'm always available.
Thank you. So could I suggest that we take action under the part of the agenda that's section 5E, which is action on approval of the technology plan. Would there, and subject to whatever editorial revisions you would like to make. Would there be a motion to approve the plan subject to editorial changes?
I move.
So that's, you have
Happy
to
to
say,
second it.
so Moina moves and Patsy seconds. Is there any additional discussion? If not, then all in favor, please wave your hand or say aye. Any objections, any abstentions? Then we approve it unanimously. And Lori, thank you very much for giving us some time tonight.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always available. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Lori.
Bye-bye.
So returning to the agenda, we'll now go to item 2. Does anyone have any additions to this agenda they'd like to recommend? If not, we'll.
I didn't get any minutes.
Uh, uh, The minutes were sent. I'll explain the snafu we had with the minutes. And then Patsy, if you want to wait till next month to approve them, we can do that. But they've all been sent. They were sent along with the agenda, the first technology plan. So if you look at the email you got, I forget, Monday or Tuesday, there should be 2 sets of minutes.
Yeah, I think I saw those.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
But there's been a
Okay.
bunch of emails, so it's a little confusing. Let's see.
What's the date of the email?
Is December 7th.
I think it was sent on Monday, right? Agenda.
Yes, I
packet.
received mine on Monday.
That's December 7th.
Yes.
I'm afraid to go to my computer and then lose all of this, so I'm not super tech savvy.
Neither am I.
So can we, were you going to call to vote on the minutes? Alex?
Well, I was, but if you either want to wait or abstain, we can do that. If you want to table them or move to abstain or, so let me explain what happened with the minutes, which is that for some reason, I don't know how, the city ended up posting the Zoom, I'm not sure what we call it, digital record under the wrong date. And so the minute takers and Sherelle and I have been spending dozens of hours trying to figure this out. And they finally got it straightened out yesterday. Essentially that the September 29th special meeting was listed under October 10th regular meeting. And I kept asking for the minutes and I kept getting the wrong one. So that's part of the problem with the delay. So there are 2 sets of minutes that we're going to do tonight, if that's all right with everybody, including Patsy. One is the very brief September 29th special meeting that we called primarily to approve the learning pods, which, as you may recall, the Board of Ed wanted to start the next week. And second are the November regular meeting minutes from last month. And we're still waiting to get a draft of the October 10th regular meeting. And that was the one that got mislabeled. And therefore nobody could figure out, which was which.
I would really like to be able to see the minutes before we vote. I don't want to abstain because I haven't had a chance to see them. So I don't know what everybody else feels, but if we could postpone it
Well,
to the
But
next
with
meeting.
at the September special meeting, you were not present. So I wonder if we could take those up, since you would probably abstain in any event. Would that be all right?
Well, it's up to everybody.
Patsy, would that be all right?
I said it's really up to the people that were there. I wasn't there.
I wasn't at the September special meeting either.
Correct. So it's myself, Sharon, who can't be with us tonight, Mary, Janie, and Ralph were at the special meeting.
So you don't have a quorum to vote on them anyway, right? You don't have,
I just think my suggestion is that you take all of them for the next meeting and put them all together, and then I think we should give people a chance to review them who didn't get them. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, so then we'll table them. We'll table them till the next meeting.
It's so weird. I'll just point out right now that it says my name wasn't there, but then my name is I'm talking about the September special meeting. It looks like I am there. I mean, I can't remember whether I was there in September or not. So,
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll add you as being present.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll table these till the next meeting.
thank you,
Okay, just wait on that. They were sent on the 7th.
on December 7th. Okay. I'll try to
Okay.
get them up
We're gonna basically have September,
October.
November, December.
November, and December.
And October. If you read my agenda, I said that that I was sending out the minutes of September 29th special meeting, November 12th regular meeting, and I would provide an update on the minutes of October 8th regular meeting. That's
Okay,
the city just found yesterday.
okay, fair enough. Yep, got it.
All right, so we'll table those. All right, the next item then is the president's report. So I'm assuming for the moment that Sherelle is not back online.
She is.
She is on. Okay, fine. Thank you, Sherelle. So in terms of the reopening plan, things
Yep,
are
I'm sorry.
things are pretty much the status quo. That is, we're still accepting individual appointments at both branches. We're still doing sidewalk pickup of books and copy materials. And
Mhm.
that's about that. For the time being, as you know, the whole state just about is in the red zone. And
Yes.
so Sherelle and the Guardian have been trying to figure out how to carry on the sidewalk pickup during the winter period. And they began discussing how to
Mhm.
have a sort of a drop-down window on the main building for people to come in and pick up stuff. Sherelle, do you want to indicate anything about that?
Sure. So one of the windows near the entrance, we'd like to have that as the curbside service. So Guardian came over and we needed to be able to get the bags through the window. So we can basically, the window comes out where it's flat, and then we can put plexi that could be movable, and then we can give people their bags. So that the building actually protects them from the element, because right now they're outside doing sidewalk service. So the building will protect them. So it'll, we'll just pass it through the window. And it'll be the window that's directly adjacent to the book return. So they can return their books and pick up their books like all in the same spot. And at Sono, we really didn't have to make any accommodations because people can just drive up to the door.
Great. So any
Are
questions?
there signs there instructing people what to do?
There will be.
Okay.
And there'll be a number if anybody needs, to call us. So we'll have the number and we'll have the signs.
Good.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on. Next item is the status of the executive director job description. And I just heard today from Lamont that the city has approved the relatively minor revisions that we submitted last month. And so now we'll be able to go ahead with the advertising of the position and the creation of a selection committee. But we couldn't do anything until the city approved the job description revisions that we had made and that I circulated previously in an email to everybody.
Alex,
Yes.
did we receive a copy of the final job description for it? I know we received the original draft.
Right, you got original draft, and then I sent around a revision based on comments from you, Patsy, and somebody else. I'll resend that, but I sent that to everybody back in November after our meeting.
Okay, I guess only because I have one question. Is our executive director required to have a master's in library science? Just curious.
I have to go back and look. I think, I don't recall, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you.
But we have that description. I can't recall it
Yes,
offhand.
I'll send it out again. What happens, we approved it at the last meeting. I, kind of typed it up again, sent it to Lamont to run by the city. And just today I heard they approved it. It was mainly a few minor additions. Mary had suggested something, and
Bullet points.
Patsy, you wanted to reorganize the listing of the duties in a certain way. So we did those things. So I'll recirculate that, but that's been approved by the city.
Thank you.
Do we have the space scale of the job in the job description?
I'm sorry,
scale.
Patsy.
The salary
Should I
scale.
recuse myself? Should I?
I think so. Yes, I think it would. If you're an applicant, yes.
So, somebody just go like this when I should turn back on.
I don't know what the pay scale is. The salary scale.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that's part of the job description per se. Because the one we worked off of was 10 years old and we didn't make any revision to it, which I don't think would have been the case had that been part of it. I think that's something the city may list separately. And then, as you may recall, we had a discussion about whether to hire a consultant to help the board.
Mhm.
And the answer back and then the consensus of the board was to ask the city their view of that. And the city's position is that they usually don't do that and don't recommend doing that unless some problem arises. So they have suggested that we not do that.
So what is the process then?
Well, the process is that the city advertises the position. The city and the board create a search committee to review the applications and decide which candidates to interview, and then to make recommendations to the mayor. And it had been
And the mayor then hires the person. The mayor makes the decision. Is that what you're saying?
well, that's the way it's worked. I've asked Harry if we could have a consensus process so that the board recommendation and Harry would try to jointly do this. But under the past practice, it was the mayor's decision because personnel is not listed in the city code as one of this board's responsibilities.
And what's the timeline to do this?
Well, I honestly don't know what the professional standard is about how long to advertise for. And until they had approved this, I mean, it wasn't any reason to start thinking about it. So again, I just heard this afternoon about 3 o'clock that the city approved it because I wanted to be able to report back to the board on their decision. So now we'll have to work out the timeline and all those kinds of things.
So the city approved what, the last thing we sent, or are there changes? Do we have the most updated guidelines that the city has approved?
I sent them out in November. We'll resend them. That's the one that they approved.
And I actually have the job description, some version of it up in front of me, and it says qualifications profile, the skills and knowledge required would generally be acquired with a master's degree in library science. I mean, it doesn't look like it says, it doesn't quite say it's required, but it's kind of saying that. It
It
should
or its
it should
equivalent.
be, I mean, it should be.
Because
I don't know. It's like kind of the language is a little, it's not so direct, but I think that it seems like that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
So what we'll do is we'll circulate. And so anybody from the board who wants to be on the search committee, please let me know. I think you need to be prepared to do, I don't know, probably 1 or 2 days of interviewing, depending on how many candidates we decide to interview. And the idea is then to have somebody from the mayor's office and then have a area librarian, not from Norwalk, sit on as well.
Is that what the city is advocating?
That's what I worked out with Harry.
Well, I would like to be on the committee, so.
Just let me
tell you that now.
know or whatever. That's fine. Anybody who'd like to be on it, we can do that.
How do we ensure that the job description gets as much as widely distributed as, into all the right kind of library circles? They do that, right? The city does that.
Yes. And apparently, what happens these days is that because so many job searches are listed on the internet under various job aggregating
Yeah.
entities, it's not a matter of, being hard to reach people as it used to be in the past.
No, I completely understand, but I'm sure there are places where librarians go to look for jobs.
Right.
Like anything,
We can ask the city where they're advertising, right?
Okay. Next, I have follow-up on our operating budget request. And I put on at the end of the agenda tonight, the letter that the board authorized me to write to the city, trying to save 2 positions.
we should get Sherelle back on. Sherelle? I don't know what we're supposed to do.
Leave her back. Get her cell phone. Somebody have her cell phone?
I do. I'm going to try to call her right now. We're ready for you to come back. All right.
Okay,
Okay, so we're moving on to the budget. And as I mentioned, the board agreed that we would ask the city to retain two positions, both for, well, primarily for public health and safety in terms of keeping a full-time custodian rather than going to 1.5 custodians.
mhm,
And also to have another assistant librarian dealing with cataloging of materials and other things.
okay.
That was presented to the city. I was not present for that discussion. Sherelle was, and apparently we got a big fat no.
Oh,
So I intend to continue to advocate for these because again, they're a matter of both the staff safety and public safety. And especially with the custodian, it puts us in the position where we'd have a full-time custodian in one building. And then at the other building, there's a part-time custodian. If that part-time custodian were sick or called away or something, and people are coming in, let's say, for the Board of Ed pods meetings, who would be around to clean up? I just think it's an unwise decision not to make public health here the major determinant. And as Sherelle indicated in the memo that was circulated as part of the budget discussion last month to the board, the library seems to be absorbing a disproportionate share of the early retirement and staff reductions in the city budget.
Did
Which I-
you get the rationale for why they targeted the three positions? What was their
I
rationale?
didn't
for
get a
them?
direct rationale, but I'm thinking it's because savings.
Okay, so that's our argument is,
Right.
it is need versus, as Alex just saying, we're taking a disproportionate hit. So we got to fight back.
Well, that was the consensus of the supervisors, when we had our meeting, was that, it was sort of a huge hit and that it seems like our position, we were cut more, so.
So that meeting happened on December 4th with the finance director. Again, Sherelle was there, I was not. The next formal opportunity to present our case comes in early January when there's an opportunity to present to the Board of Estimate. And as you know, the city code says, and I don't know whether this is true of other departments, so that's why I don't think it's fair that we're being treated like every other department, for example, the health department. But the city code says that this board shall present a budget to the city. The city is not required to accept it, but they're required to learn what our requests are. And I think that entitles us to continue to seek those, especially in this case when it's really a matter of public health. We're one of the most often used public facilities in the city. And the fact that City Hall is shut down kind of more than we are at the moment indicates that our public health needs, should be addressed. So
I'm an advocate of fighting the issue. So whatever the
Good.
board can do to help, I
right, so
think.
maybe what we can do is this. Maybe what we can do is this. I attached my letter to this agenda tonight. And maybe people could take a look at it, make any suggested revisions or additions, and then we could do a joint letter to the Board of Estimate from the whole board.
in advance of the January meeting, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Do you recall the date of that, Sherelle?
I'm sorry,
Recall the date,
I know I sent it to you. I can look it up and shoot it to you right after the
I'll
meeting.
send it around. I think it's, second week in January or something.
Yeah. I can actually look it
That's
up.
okay. We'll send it around. So
Oh.
if you but take a look at the language that I have in the agenda tonight from my November 12th, sorry, my November 17th letter to Lamond. And then we can talk about any language changes you'd like to make make it a joint letter.
So, Sherelle did they say no to you in the finance meeting? Is that when that happened, or through email, or how?
I was told prior to that they were not replacing the positions.
But they didn't say why. Did they say why?
There was no direct why, but I guess the savings for the city.
We need to know we have a right to know the rationale for that, and then to figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, well, I've asked, I sent this letter that's in the agenda to Lamond on November 17th. I've never gotten a reply. So I asked him yesterday for the courtesy of a reply, and maybe that letter will contain some information. I'm not hopeful it will, but it might contain some rationale. And I'll circulate it when I get it. Okay, and finally, we agreed, as you recall, last month to not accept donated materials during the continued presence of the pandemic because of the difficulty of handling them and cleaning them and so on. And so I put in the agenda copy of the notice that we circulated on the websites. And it's also been posted on the glass in front of the book return
Yeah, I saw
at
it.
the main branch. Shweta, have people been putting books in the book return at the Sono branch that are not library books?
Donations, they
Yeah.
were,
Right.
yes. Not as much now, but in the beginning, yes, quite a bit.
Okay. And I had a discussion with Ralph, excuse me, earlier in the week, and suggested that in light of this difficulty of people touching the materials and cleaning, we had not being cleaned, that we would hope that he would agree, and he has agreed very kindly, thank you, Ralph, to not put out the free book cart in front of the Belden branch until the virus recedes and we can start doing things more safely. So the staff was concerned that it was just too unsafe of having people come up and handle books and leave them behind, kind of. So thank you. So there's no more free book cart in front of the main branch as a result of this. And the last item on my part of the agenda was the technology plan. So thank you for that discussion, and thank Lori for coming. So Sherelle?
Okay. So Sidewalk Service, it continues, and as Alex mentioned, we've come up with a way to handle sidewalk service during the winter months. It increases by, it's a huge service. People really enjoy the sidewalk service, and it just more and more it increases at both the branch and the main library. So that's
I just
going
want to
well.
thank Cheryl, if I could just compliment the staff. I mean, I was watching C-SPAN and they were discussing a book. I thought, well, this sounds really interesting. And so I went online, I reserved the book online. The next day went to pick it up and there it was. So it was really
It was, yeah, it's a wonderful service.
thank you.
I've had many instances like that, and I really appreciate it. And it's kind of one of those things where we're like, or can we keep doing this?
Yeah, I think we're gonna keep a lot of the new things that are being done in COVID across the board, and in all parts of our lives. They're gonna,
Mhm.
it's changed for the future, definitely.
Definitely, yes.
So you might enjoy this book. I was going to mention it's called The Daughters of Yalta. And it's about the daughter of Franklin Roosevelt, the daughter of Averell Harriman, and the daughter of Winston Churchill, all helping their fathers at the Yalta meeting at the end of World War II.
Huh,
Really interesting.
wow, okay. Thank you. So the library by appointment, that it's picking up. It started off a little slow. I don't know if it's because people were afraid to come in or people just didn't know about it, but it did start slow, but it's picking up a little. And the health report, so we did have 2 employees who tested positive for COVID. And so we had to, the first one, we had to quarantine 4 staff members. The second one, there was only 1 person quarantined. But as a result of that, I did ask supervisors to stagger their staff in teams. So like if team A is in on Monday, team B can work from home. The next day, team B might be in and team A works from home. So that'll prevent the wiping out of a department in the event somebody tests positive, because people won't be there at the same time.
Was it at both locations or just one?
I'm sorry.
Were the positive results in Sono and the main library, or both?
No,
One or both?
at the main.
They were all in the main?
Mhm.
Okay.
And what is the requirement for them to come back to work? Is it, do they need to be tested? Do they?
So they test negative in order to come back. What's interesting is if you test positive, you isolate for 10 days. And if you test, but if you quarantine for 14 days. So I found that interesting. And I did ask, and they said they know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's the science of it.
Sherelle, other than the positions that have been lost, are we fully staffed at both of our libraries? Because I know at one point Sono was short 1 library position.
So Sono is short 2 full-time library positions and have been for some time. And it could be why, we don't have the COVID cases. We have 1 full-timer and 1 part-timer, and that is how we're operating. So there's a librarian position and a library assistant position that I guess they're in the middle of filling.
So are you switching staff from one library to the other, or?
Not in the time of COVID, no.
So how are we functioning? Okay.
Barely.
So why were those positions not filled?
Good question. Hopefully, I think they're in the process of filling. I keep hearing that they're in the process, so hopefully they will be filled, pretty soon.
Is that Lamond again, Alex?
Well, I'm not sure this is the right way to handle it, but customarily, personnel has been under the direction of the city, and I left it to Chris and now to Sherelle to interact with the city about hiring positions, who's needed and where. If they ask me for help, I will give it, but I have not sort of on a day-to-day basis interacted with Lamond other than to object to the cutting of these positions in next year's budget. And I told, Chris and I had discussions about it, and I just said, you know the personnel better than I do, so you get what you need. If you need my help, let me know. And if
Okay.
Sherelle needs help getting somebody hired at Sono, I'm glad to intervene. But I've never been involved in personnel interviews or selecting who to hire, that kind of thing.
Would it be appropriate for us to ask what the status of those 2 positions are?
I've asked, and they're in the process. So
I'm talking about the board asking rather than you. Would it be
Gotcha.
appropriate, Alex, for us to ask?
Sure.
Well, my question the thought process is, say if somebody gets sick at Sono, what are we gonna do? What's
So
our,
I ended up doing, it was fun. I ended up doing lots of reference today. I was the one person there, so we had 2 in-person visits, lots of phone calls, virtual visits. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Where was the other person today, Shiro?
They had to leave for school. They had to do
So
something.
really would be down 5 positions then, the 2 that they're talking about not filling and these 2. So we need to put those 2 concepts together.
I think so.
Okay, we'll get on it.
Thank you.
So let's see. So the good news is, all of the employees are negative now. They've all tested negative. So that's the good news. I put in your packet, the database and downloadable item usage. So that's in the report.
I'm sorry,
And it's
Shiro, before you
itemized.
leave the COVID report, is there anything you need from us in reviewing the chart? Or has the health department reviewed it, or what's the status of the chart that
Oh,
you
that's
circulated?
right. Yes. I submitted the chart. They made a few revisions, particularly because I couldn't wrap my head around the 10 and the 14 they days for quarantining and isolation. So, but they did approve it, and it's been circulated to the staff. So they know what to do. There's one chart, if you have been exposed and what to do, and then there's another one if you've tested positive and what to do. So staff seemed to think that was very helpful.
Okay,
I looked at that chart. It was good.
okay. So maybe if you get any more feedback that you think be useful to share with us, you'll feel free to do so.
Okay. I am working on a comprehensive plan, around, if staff are paid, when they're out with COVID, and just, other things too. It's just as time permits, I'm working on a more comprehensive plan.
Okay.
So I don't know if anyone has questions on the database. Everything is itemized. If you want to take a look, it's in the report.
I'm not sure people have had enough time really to review it, given when it arrived. So
That's true.
Yeah, I did look at it earlier, and I just like to say it's a much easier to read format. I can tell you that. Thank you. And I was surprised at some of the usage numbers, that we have, and people are really using, our databases, and I'm just glad to see that.
And the database use has really gone up. So I'll point out a few things like Newsbank. That's the hour. So that's pretty high. And that's, if you recall, that was in our capital budget to, digitize all of our, the hour. So you can get it from the beginning to current. So that's being used heavily. The RB Digital Magazine, so people are not necessarily coming in. And even prior to COVID, people weren't really checking out magazines. They were reading them in-house, but not necessarily checking them out. So it's sort of difficult to decide, like, what are we keeping and what are we not keeping, because they were reading them in-house, but the circulation, it didn't, just look like they weren't going out. But people are definitely reading them online. Let's see, the homework help has gone up some. So we have the live
Yes.
homework help. So between 3 and 11, someone can go on and there's a live tutor there. So you pick your grade, you choose your subject, and then someone comes on and you have that interaction. So I don't know if that's a result of COVID, because children really need the help, but that's gone up quite a bit. And Hoopla, So people are downloading those movies, and so those were the ones that stuck out. I don't know, does anyone have any questions? No. So Sidewalk Service, the numbers are here. Sidewalk Service is just, it's a very popular service, and the numbers just, you know, they increase. So in September, there were 1,872 transactions. You know, these were requests for printing, assistance, you know, whether it's notary or fax or quick pickup of books. In October of 2020, it increased to 5,000 from the 1,000. So, you know, people are getting used to it, and they like, you know, that personal service. And the in-person visits, basically, so like, as I said, it started off pretty slowly, but it's picking up some. And again, I don't know if it's because people don't want to come into the building, or, you know, if they just didn't know about it. So, so we're trying to get the word out.
You're right.
As far as the blue teapot, so Neoli is starting to make sandwiches for the staff.
Wait, let's finish A5, the Board of Ed Learning Pods.
Okay. So we have the numbers for the learning pods for October and November. So, and it lists all of the sites, not just our 2 sites, but I can stick with our 2 sites. So the at Sono, there was 25, and now it's 15, and the main library was 14, and it's down to 7 now. Some of this, Rowayton closed their site, and you know, the parents were given a choice of sites, and most of those kids were moved to Sono. So attendance has fluctuated due to quarantine issues. The decline in students is mainly due to parents changing their students' designation to fully remote. So if somebody thinks they have symptoms, the parent may not choose to send them to the pod, but just keep them at home.
So the pod program serves students who are in the hybrid situation, and they go there on the days they're not in the school. So if they're fully remote, they wouldn't be in the program.
Well, the parents can choose to pull them out if they don't want to send them in, if they're, you know, whether if they have COVID or they're afraid, you know, that the child might get COVID.
Yeah, so we have a unusually large number of schools that are closed now.
Mhm.
Are all of those children then not in the pods? If your school is closed? You're home
No.
full time?
Yep. They're fully remote. So.
Right, so that may account for some of the decline in the numbers.
Mhm.
Is there any evaluation by the Board of Ed, since you have 2 hats here, Sherelle? Is the Board of Ed doing any kind of quality evaluation of the gain of the PODS program?
I can ask for that.
I don't know, maybe
So I
it's
can
too
have
soon
that
to tell.
update.
Yeah. I get asked, you know, I'm involved in the chef desegregation case in Hartford, and I get asked about, because I promote our Learning Pods program every chance I get, and I was kind of curious what the kind of preliminary outcomes might be.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'll find out, and I'll have that ready for the next board meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're gonna go down to the blue teapot now.
So continuing with our collaboration with the Board of Ed, we had our first Norwalk NPL debates, and we had an 8th grader from Roten Middle School and a 12th grader from P-Tech Norwalk debate the Electoral College. And
What's
it was a phenomenal debate.
Sorry, why don't you do number 3
Pardon?
next? Why don't you do these in order that they're on the agenda? So number 3 is the blue teapot.
The blue teapot, yes. So Neoli will supply sandwiches for the staff on an honorarium basis. So she'll bring them in and put them in her refrigerator, and she'll leave the cup, and people can pay her that way. So that way she's not in and out of the library due to COVID.
All right, and the
And
sale?
she had thought to have a bake sale, but she's decided not to have the bake sale outside.
But she's still taking custom orders.
She
She's
is.
still taking custom orders
Mhm.
from, let's say, library patrons, but she's just not doing it on a kind of wholesale sidewalk basis. Just so you know, we had agreed with her that she could do a sidewalk sale, but I guess she decided not to go through with it. Is that right? Sherelle, is that correct? Nope.
Think she lost.
No, I'm here now. I don't know, something funny just happened with the phone.
Well, I just want everybody to
Okay,
know, we had agreed with her that if she could meet the health department requirements, it was all right with us to do a curbside pickup, and I guess she decided not to do it.
Yeah, I think some of the requirements, and they were, definitely willing to work with her. But I think some of the requirements might have been a bit much.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been kind of awkward with Najol because here they invested a lot of their funds in setting up this, bakery service, and then the COVID virus hits,
COVID.
and obviously it severely limits the traffic that she can do. On the other hand, she's a private business, and we're not able to subsidize her with taxpayer money. So she's had to kind of make it on her own, and we've tried to help, in terms of, it's the sandwiches, the sidewalk sales, but it's been very tough for her. She does all of her baking off-site, so she's able to supply individual orders without having to go into the library very much. So I know my family's going to be ordering from her as a way to try to help her out and have a couple of good pies to boot. So we hope she can survive.
Is her item list located anywhere that we can look at it and maybe help and order something from her?
On both websites. So on the Sono site and on the main library site. So in the slideshow, you can just click on, once that slide comes up, click on it, and you can have an itemization of what she sells and the prices.
Thanks.
I'll split my pecan pie with you, Mary.
Are we, I think, were we putting I know we put flyers into a lot of the bags. Could we help out with that, like a holiday like some kind of flyer for pies? And
So they were outside and on the table. So if anybody wanted to take one, they could.
Okay.
And she does still have the open
Shirley, you want to
invitation.
continue?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay. So the report on part 2 of the James Baldwin read, we weren't there because we had the board meeting that night, but Darlene Young did a phenomenal job of hosting. We had quite a few people. I think we had over 100 because we had not counted the people that were viewing on Facebook Live, and apparently there were quite a few people watching on Facebook Live as well as on Zoom. So, but she did a phenomenal job of hosting. And it's on our YouTube page if anyone wants to see. And so then the other part of our collaboration with Norwalk Public Schools was the debate, the Electoral College debate with the 2 students that were very well researched and just phenomenal. And Alex introduced the program, but it was just the
Mary
kids were,
and Janie were there also.
Mary and Janie,
Were there, yes.
and it was phenomenal. So, and we're looking to do more of that. So I'll be speaking, you know, with the curriculum department to do more debates.
Great.
And finally, the next One Book, One Community read will be a collaboration with the Spanish community. And we're looking, it looks like we've sort of settled on the book Children of the Land. And so now it's just a matter of choosing the panelists. And I got a couple of names today from some members of the community, someone on Norwalk Acts, I guess someone who's with the, I can't think of the name of it. It's a Latino organization, but you know, they're coming up with names of people to be on their panel. So it's not, we haven't decided on a date as yet. We're looking maybe March, April. I talked to the staff today about, you know, their thoughts as far as the books. Some of the people that were mentioned, Vicki knew quite a few of the people who were mentioned as panelists. And so now we're just, you know, we're still planning, but that will be the next focus.
Thank you. Any questions for Cheryl? If not, then moving on to old business. Some good news. Cheryl?
For old business, oh yeah, the MERV filters were completed in both buildings. So we have MERV 13, you know, which helps with COVID. So both buildings were totally changed over.
Great. Congratulations. Okay. That completes our agenda business. Anyone like to bring up any other item?
Where are we with the capital budget? Any news on that?
So
Like, go ahead, Cheryl.
so I was told that they were approved, but I haven't seen any document.
No, I'm talking about the building.
Yeah,
plan.
I'll get to that after Cheryl's done. By the way, one of the things that's made this budget season difficult for people like us is that with the adoption of these new super departments, I'm not sure what to call them. So the Norwalk Library budget is now incorporated into the Community Services Division budget. And sometimes it's a little hard to pull out whose is what. And as you may recall, the capital budget items for the construction project are within the economic and community development budget. They're not a part of the library capital budget. So I got a call today from Jessica, who's the director of the economic and community development department, letting me know that they have put in the 4.5 million for the purchase of the option on 11 Belden will go into the city's request for next year's capital budget, which is good news.
So 21, 22, 21, 22, that budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, because the option doesn't have to be exercised immediately, she said there may be a request from finance to move it to the next fiscal year. This call happened this afternoon. I haven't had time to really look at what that might involve, but in any event, the 4.5 million will be in one of the years in the economic and community development capital budget request.
How do we rally support for that with, COVID? We were so impactful when we had the package of reports that I presented at one of the budget meetings. Are we going to do anything to support that budget when we have the budget hearings? And I don't know if all the budget hearings are going to be by Zoom.
I think the
How do
answer
we
to that
cope
question-
with that?
I think the answer to that question is yes. They will be by Zoom, and yes, we'll circulate and come up with a board endorsement of those funds.
But
But
it
we
sounds
also
like
had,
already
public support, we had, I forgot how many letters of support we had. The package was almost a foot high.
Yeah, I think we'll have to have a off-the-record discussion about some of this.
Strategy for support.
But the good news is that the city will be putting it into the
Great.
community economic development budget. So anything else we can take up before we go to the foundation meeting? Will it be a motion to adjourn? All right, Mary Mann moves to adjourn, Patsy seconds. Any objection? Then without objection, the board of directors is adjourned, and we'll see you in 2 minutes in the foundation meeting. Thank you.
So we have to do another number.